folks, Mitch Boyle, Triple Double Sports Cards at tripledouble-sportscards.com, and today it's a three-part episode. The first one is called BGS Blues. So in our industry, we've become rather accepting of waiting quite a while for our product to get back, which is ironic considering in any other industry, if we wait more than a week once something's in the warehouse, we get rather frustrated. And I don't know how we got to this point that we're willing to wait, in my case, not 10 weeks or 30 weeks, 40 or 50 or 60 weeks. This BGS order took 75 weeks to get back. And I'll tell you, I don't know if this is why, maybe it was just in the queue this way, but I had to write and call and threaten to pull back my order. And they said, there's nothing we can do about it. And when you know, 3 days later, I get notification that the grades are done. That's even more frustrating. On top of that, as you're looking at, the next thing in the BGS Blues world is these altered cards. Now, I understand that in my case, and a lot of our cases, when we had cards, let's say in the mid to late 80s and early 90s, we put them in screw downs because we thought they looked good, and if we put them in the right way and screwed them down lightly, then everything should be okay. And I certainly did that with the Jordan cards, but some of these lesser cards, like this Clyde Drexler card, I did not focus as well as I should have. But what's frustrating to me is that these cards don't get graded. There's nothing purposeful I did about this at all. It's not like I tampered with it or meaningfully went in and tried to fix an edge or fix other issues. This just was out of the fact that I thought I was doing the right thing and I didn't. But unfortunately, what it constitutes is that this card that might get an 8 otherwise, let's say, based on the other grades that I got, would get 20% of that. So it might be, I guess, that would be a 2 or a 3. Now, work with me on this. From an aesthetic standpoint, does this look like a 2 or a 3? I really would love the industry to give these a grade, knowing that the fact that in this particular case, this upper right-hand corner is compressed, the top edge here is compressed, some of the ink peeled off, but it's not a 2 or a 3, and yet that's the value we're getting for these. Now, maybe I'm way off base, but it certainly is a frustration of mine. Wouldn't be quite so much if I didn't have, out of the 55 cards, 9 of them that I got graded as altered. But I'd love your opinion on the fact that the durations are frustratingly long. PSA has gotten better, I get it. So here's number 1, and we're going to do Clyde Drexler, Isaiah Thomas, and Charles Barkley. So this should be about, all in, probably 8 minutes from this point forward. But let's look at all of these cards that have been altered. And they will increasingly get better, but this is a card, when you look at it from the naked eye, centered very well left to right, top to bottom, a bit off, but not bad. I think it might be an 8.5. The edge is not perfect. This was always a struggle with the 86, 87 third basketball. Let's take a look at the back. The back has something to be desired, but it's not terrible. I've seen worse, and God, what great color. Sometimes these are faded, and this looks like a really nice card. And yet, if this card was an 8.5, but now that it's altered, it probably will go for, instead of $150 to $200, it'll probably go for 30 bucks. Good for the customer, though, I guess, because if they only care about aesthetics, then I think this is a wonderful card to own, and you can do it for half the price of even a 5, which is insane. This card is off-center for sure, but the edges are certainly nice, and how about the corners? Very sharp. Depends on what you're into, I suppose, but if you're into sharp corners and good edges, that's a quality piece of work. And as you see, as we move through this, now the centering becomes better, although you can very clearly, well, at least I can, see where, because it was, in the screw down right across here, the ink has peeled away. And of course, there's compression, meaning the card is squished down. But it's not meaningfully altered. And this one is super. From a centering standpoint, from a corner standpoint, you know, I'm going to be biased about some of these cards, but I do have a 10 PSA in Clyde Drexler that I got about 2 months ago, so I have a general idea. And although this is not a 10, it certainly could be a 9.5. The corners are ultra sharp. The centering's good enough to be in that 9.5 category. So this probably would be a $400 card, but somebody's probably going to get it for 50 to 80 bucks. I'd buy it. Maybe I should just keep it. I'm not much of a collector anymore, though I used to be, but obviously not much more. Selling all my stuff on tripledouble-sportscards.com. And of course on eBay we have a rather extensive portfolio product on there, normally 50 to 60 cards at any given time, so please check it out. This Clyde Drexler is the first of the 9s and the only 2 that I got back that were graded. And it's a solid 9 with subs of 2 9s, a 9.5 and an 8.5. And then this would be a 9 plus with 3 9s as subs, and then the centering is a 9.5. That's a really nice card. We got Isaiah Thomas to go, and in this particular case we were pretty fortunate because there were no issues with Altered States, I'm going to call that, because that's a pretty crazy movie. I think, was that in the 80s or was it in the early 90s? Anyway, got an 8 here, no complaints there. Interesting how they do the different coloring of the labels. Obviously Gem Mint's at gold, and then the ones that are, I think, 8.5 and 9s are silver. I don't know what the ones are 7.5. I do have some of those, so I'm sure we'll check that out here shortly, but not today because I didn't in this particular grouping have anything below an 8, I don't think. Another nice Isaiah Thomas. Centering really good left to right, although you can see the surface ink dot there, and thus an 8.5 on the surface. Looks like my cat's going to join us, which means she may jump up on the table. And that would add to my BGS blues because it takes a lot to do these videos. Isaiah Thomas, the back, not too bad. I would say top to bottom fine, a little bit off, and then same thing with left to right. Let's jump to, oh, I do have one more Isaiah. Here's a 9 and solid subgrades. You got 2 9s and 8.5, but you do have a 9.5 as well. Top to bottom, not so good. Left to right, very good. But you do have 2 corner issues here, especially the upper right-hand corner. All right, lastly, we're going to run through Mr. Barkley, Charles in charge. Here she comes. She's going to jump up here, I promise you. All right, centering not so good on this altered one. That was the case with all these Charles Barkley cards. Here's another one, same issue. Yeah, not so good on the centering. So a card that, let's say, typically might be a 7.5 and go for around $150, maybe 100. This card's probably going to go for $20, which costs, at the end of the day, I'm selling it for less than what I got it graded for. That's frustrating. Well, I did regular, so I guess that's $15. So there's this one, and these are all the rest have grades, and there's nothing less than an 8.5 here. As a matter of fact, there are 4 9s, so I can't complain about everything because the 9s are really nice. And even this one, outside the fact that the centering top to bottom is not so good, and of course, it's registered that way with the centering of an 8. Edges and surface 9s, then of course the corners are 8.5. And what's wrong with those? I don't know. They're not all that bad. Maybe the upper right-hand corner. Let's check the centering on the back. Ooh, that's actually pretty good. Look at that. Huh. Yeah, I like that. We got a couple more 8.5s. We'll rumble through these fairly quickly. I think that's the case, right? Yeah, I just pulled that little hair off of there. That's pretty good, isn't it? I mean, obviously centering an issue on so many of these cards, specifically even more so on Charles Barkley. Not so much the case with the Drexler that you saw and Elijah one. Those cards are actually pretty easy to get centered. Other cards, James Worthy is one of the most difficult by far, and Dominique is almost impossible. Hard to get a really good grade there. We do have some Dominique coming up in the next of the 3-part series. Centering terrible on the back here, in my opinion. Not terrible, but certainly not good, and not worthy of an 8. But again, they don't look at the backs from a grading standpoint that much. It becomes apparent to me. Another 8.5. Centering again, the problem top to bottom. Left to right, okay, but not great. We are down to the last 4 cards of Sir Charles. So, oops, let me move that up just a little bit. I don't know if that equates to a 9 centering. I guess left to right it's very strong. Top to bottom it is off. But it has 1 weak subgrade of an 8. Let's take a look at the back on this card. Oh, that's pretty good. Top to bottom, very nice. Left to right, not perfect, but it's a real nice Charles Barkley. I love this photo, by the way. I think it's quintessential Charles Barkley with, as Jack Ramsey used to say, the 2-hand stuffer. Isn't he still doing color commentation? I bet you, just a wild guess, I bet you Jack Ramsey is like in his mid-80s. All right, so let's check this out. The cat is about ready to hit that camera. I guess I should close the door. And the last of the 3 Charles Barkleys, again a 9, centering not so good. But edges and surface, phenomenal. We got 2 to go. I might have to hurry in hopes that the cat doesn't knock that camera over. She's looking right at me. Dad, I'm going to knock this over. I hope you don't mind. Yeah, I actually do. Centering, 9.5. How about that? Woo! That is a beautiful card. Corners to the naked eye. Oh, those look good. Huh. Very nice. And the last of the group today in part 1 of this 1986-87 BGS reveal called I Got the BGS Blues is actually a 9+, where you've got 9.5 ornament centering, and then the corners, edges, and surface are all 9. So yeah, that is good news. I want to thank you for watching our video today. I really would appreciate your opinions of altered states, and maybe that's just the way it is and it should stay that way, or maybe we should make a change. And then also, what are we going to do about, or I guess it's nothing because nobody's done anything, but maybe just express what you're thinking about how long it's taking you to get grades back. PSA has gotten better, like I said earlier. And that's it today, folks. I really want to thank you. Again, comments will be great. Subscription, thank you so much in advance. A like wouldn't hurt either. So, until next time, I'm Mitch Boyle, Triple Double Sports Cards at tripledoublesportscards.com.
Focus, focus, 4 eyes is how I wrote this. Notice, notice how ambition is how to cope with wishing, wishing you could see success. These specs can't be fucked with, see? Nah, you can't fuck with me. Yeah.